Hello again, everyone. I'm Jeremy Jones, and welcome to another episode of the Coach's Corner. And what we'll be going over in this episode is the draw stroke. Of course, everything, just like anything in pool, everything's so vast, it's hard to cover them all. But we're going to go over just a few key things to keep you in line with the draw stroke, hopefully make things easier and maybe not so stressful. So first couple things I want to talk about with the draw stroke is first understanding some things. When we draw the ball, and imagine a long draw shot, no one really draws the cue ball all the way back. That's not really what happens. When we draw the cue ball, we create spin that creates momentum where the cue ball actually rolls back. That's why you see most of the top players, when they move the cue ball, it does move a long ways, but it's not really moving fast, just because, again, we create spin, it creates momentum, and carries the cue ball into position. But a lot of the draw stroke, just like many other times in the game, we want to really help it. So if we look back at some past episodes about tempo, effortless stroke, and really connecting the backswing with the downswing, the biggest one, or there's a couple of them really, but the couple biggest ones, I guess, for the draw stroke is, again, to take off a little fast going back, which creates a little bit of a fast movement starting downward. So remember, the real speed's going to be there. Just try and still feel the rhythm. That way we can start off a little calmer and we can accelerate the cue to create power rather than just feeling the power in our hand. Now, to go over a couple things about the draw stroke, I'm going to set up this first shot on the 11. And to give you some perspective, if anyone in the world shot the 11, the cue ball is going to move no matter what because it has angle. So when we talk about moving the cue ball in positions to where we want, two ways to do it when we swing the cue. One is with swing speed, and the other one is with tip position, which creates spin. So here we have a shot that already has a lot of angle. So we can't totally eliminate swing speed altogether, but we got to realize that swing speed is kind of already there in the shot. It's going to move anyways. So now when we talk about drawing the ball off of a little bit thinner angles, it's about gripping the cue ball. So, if we had a door handle right here and I went like that, I may not grab the door handle at all. But if I went in there calmly and grabbed it, I'd grab it easily and thoroughly with no mistakes. So kind of imagine that as well with your pool swing. We don't want to creep in on the door handle. We have to have a little bit of speed, but I want you to mainly think about rhythm. So I'm going to shoot one shot here on the 11. I'm just going to use a low with a little outside English, and I'm going to come back 2 rails into the position where the cue ball started from. But I just kind of want you to see the tempo of the swing. You won't really see a ton of speed. Now, the other thing that's very important, because we always want to try and eliminate hitting at the cue ball. A hitter of the cue ball, when they draw, they'll swing and retract the cue because the shot's basically over for them once they strike the cue ball. And they do everything at impact as well. So we want to imagine never finishing the stroke. Always just continue it into the felt. That way, we complete the swing. We're not really quitting and hitting at impact. And, there are a lot of people talk about the follow-through in pool. Just keep it simple and just understand the follow-through itself. All it does is make impact its purest. That's it. So again, I'm going to shoot one, just see the tempo in the swing. Now you'll see my tip position here is going to be pretty low. So we're going to talk about that after this shot on the 11. So again, this shot moves on its own. We don't have to put a ton of effort. And then you can see really quiet, not a big, massive pounding, hit at impact. That tells you that I just kind of stroked through the ball and got a lot out of it. So if you noticed right there, I had a very low tip position. Now this is something I'm going to explain that's very, very important and I think necessary really to get the most out of the draw stroke. So I'm not going to shoot this 9-ball. I'm just going to show you the angle of the cue stick and how low the tip is. So here you can see there's a little downward angle on the cue stick itself. We want to stay away from being level on the bottom of the ball. When we first start playing pool, level is preached to us, and it's a good thing because when we first start, we're all over the place with the cue as kind of fun players. But as we start to play more and get better, we realize we use angles on the cue to enhance things and actually make for a better performance. So when we have an angle, or let's say when we're drawing the ball, first off, especially when we're putting a little speed, but when we're drawing the ball, try and use your firm bridge, and don't let the bridge lower with the cue stick so much. A lot of people really want to lower the bridge trying to get the cue stick more level. And actually, that's what promotes scooping the ball. Scooping the ball for most parts is just like deflection. It's all about pressure. So if you'll notice, when I'm down on the ball with my firm bridge, that naturally makes an angle on the cue stick without me having to enhance the backside. And if you look at my tip at the ball, I'm drawing the ball with the top of the tip. That's why we have them round on the side, so we can use more of the edges. And what happens also is when you're using the top part of the tip, well, you're not putting much pressure on the cue ball. It's when we start using the center of the tip, the entire mass of the cue gets into that position on the cue ball, and it better be in a pretty good position or things could go a little bad, and I'll explain. So when we get a little level, or that's not the most common mistake when we scoop the ball. When we scoop the ball, we get a little quick from the top. We break the elbow down on accident or a little early. The cue levels out and very easy to put too much pressure on the bottom of the ball. And when you do that, like I said, it's like deflection. If we hit on the right, it deflects to the left. If we hit on the left, it deflects to the right. We put a ton of pressure on the bottom, it's only got one way to go, which is up. So try to keep an angle when drawing the ball. Don't have to go crazy with the angle. You don't really want to try and jack it up. Use your bridge to create the angle, if that makes any sense. And also, say we're putting low right on the ball, like I did here on this last one. And we talk about deflection. Well, if I have a level cue stick hitting that low right on the ball, not only do I have a little chance of scooping it, but I'm going to deflect a lot more out to the left with that right English because the cue is more level. So again, a little angle makes for a tighter deflection, which means we arrive with more spin once the cue ball reaches the object ball. And I think just it enhances the performance of the draw stroke. So keep that in mind. And of course, tempo is number one. That's the one that's going to make us maintain the most. The last thing I want to go over about the draw stroke is when we're near the rail. And this is something that I almost have to remind myself sometimes. And again, this involves the angle of the cue stick. So once I start to elevate the back end of the cue, everything gets enhanced. Just like if I was going to shoot a masse, I could go dink and the ball would just zip down the table, because we put more pressure from the top of the cue ball. So now when you're on the rail, ignore that real low part of the cue ball because we have a ton of angle. So basically the angle's creating a lot of spin on the ball to where we don't have to go quite as low. Now we do need to get a hair below center, but we don't, it's easy to make the mistake and assume it's just like a regular draw stroke when our hand's out on the table. So remember, this angle being so great in the back really enhances everything. We don't have to go quite as low with the tip. So like right here, I'm barely below center, and you can see I could draw the ball pretty easily. So tempo wasn't the best right there. So again, that's number one. So for your draw stroke, try and keep a normal bridge, understanding there will be a little bit of an angle on the cue stick, and everyone's angle is a little different. Try and stay away from really jacking the back end of the cue up. We want it as natural as possible. And then again, tempo is the key, and hold the finish.